Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan, and we are coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studios, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. It's a very special edition of The Right Stand, viewers, because we have only one single focus. Amidst the shifting sands of geopolitics, where in the last 5 years we've been perhaps at loggerheads directly, indirectly with two big nations, two big hegemonistic entities like China and the US of A, given Trump's tariff barriers and tariff tantrums. The simple question is, does the Prime Minister's call for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Prime Minister's pitch for Swadeshi, which he made just as Bharat was emerging out of COVID, and he reiterated this just 2 days ago in Ahmedabad, does that ring home? Has Bharat realized the need to feed into its own domestic consumption market and also make for itself as it makes for the world, an Atmanirbhar Bharat, and also the focus on Swadeshi? How far are we from it? How much can we achieve, and can we tide over such entities that believe that they can bully a Naya Bharat? Now, the Trump tariff storm has upset global markets. We'll try and decode Prime Minister's message for Swadeshi Bharat, where we look at whether Bharat has the mettle and also the capacity to become largely self-sufficient. Amid the global economic headwinds, what are the challenges and opportunities behind such a mission? And what are the green shoot sectors where the potential lies to propel Bharat's growth story? First, let's listen into the Prime Minister's message.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत के अभियान को हम सब आगे बढ़ाएं, वोकल फॉर लोकल बने, स्वदेशी ये हमारा जीवन मंत्र बनना चाहिए दोस्तों। गर्व से स्वदेशी की तरफ चल पड़ो। भारत सरकार ऑटो इंडस्ट्री के लिए रेयर अर्थ मैग्नेट की शॉर्टेज से जुड़ी कठिनाइयों के प्रति भी सजग है। इस दिशा में देश के सामर्थ्य को बढ़ाने के लिए हमने नेशनल क्रिटिकल मिनरल मिशन भी लॉन्च किया है। आज भारत की मेक इन इंडिया इस यात्रा में एक नया अध्याय जुड़ रहा है। आज से भारत में बने इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स 100 देशों को एक्सपोर्ट किए जाएंगे।
Every threat, every problem presents an opportunity. But first, let's also decode the challenges to this new age Swadeshi movement, the gaps in the system within Bharat that persist. Number one, daunting imports. Industries still depend heavily on imported raw material and technology. There is this price pressure. Homegrown products often cost more and struggle to match the scale of global giants. There is this issue of weak infrastructure. Gaps in manufacturing and transport make large-scale production less efficient. Mindset also matters, viewers. Consumers still see foreign brands as better, marking a trust deficit with local industries. Brand Make in India and Made in India, does it still have that quality elevation that China has been able to overcome and has been able to produce, for example, from the cheapest of the qualities to the best and the best of the tech in the world? It's all coming from China at various levels. Can we do that as Bharat? And are we doing it? Skill gaps, advanced technical knowledge is limited, slowing innovation and quality improvements. Limited R&D that hinders innovation and creation of high-value products, impacting competitiveness. Red tape and uncertainty, lengthy approvals process, unclear rules, high compliance costs, they actually discourage investments. Nearly 5,000 compliances that any startup, anybody wanting to invest money and start something from ground up has to undergo in the entire bureaucratic red tape, despite the effort to try and create an ease of doing business. But then the vision also presents the nation with opportunities as well. There is a market of our own. 70% of our GDP is powered by domestic consumption. Bharat itself is a huge consumer and customer base for Swadeshi products. Policy push, schemes like Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat are giving strong support. The PLI schemes are there to give further impetus. Can they be improved upon? Is there an opportunity there? Pride and culture, growing national pride is encouraging people to choose Bharatiya brands. There are so many people in public life who are now wearing Bharatiya brands rather than foreign imports or foreign made brands. Innovation drive, tech talent and startups that can help create world-class Swadeshi solutions. A greener choice, producing locally also reduces imports, lowers carbon footprint and also supports sustainability. Foreign investment inflows, global companies set up manufacturing units, boost local production and job creation. All these are opportunities and possibilities. How big is this gap? How soon can we bridge this gap? Those are questions that we have to dwell in. Are we also, most importantly, in a mindset thinking Swadeshi and encouraged to not just make, build, consume Swadeshi? Saket Mishra, former investment banker with us. And we also have Kishore Subramaniam joining us, finance expert. Nikhil Jain and Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey should be joining us any moment now. And we'll take this entire conversation forward with our guests. Namaste and Jai Hind, Kishore ji and Saket ji. Thank you very much. Let's start with you, Kishore ji. Where's your thought? Where are you inclined? Are we being realistic or are we being overtly optimistic when we say that we can look at being Swadeshi? We can try and move away from our dependence on the Americas of the world.
Okay, good evening to my panelists and to you. First point is, can India be self-reliant? The answer is definitely yes. But is it a smooth ride and an absolute smooth journey? The answer is an absolute no. I'm an entrepreneur in this country. I understand that ease of doing business on paper versus ease of doing business on ground is totally different. Having said that, let's get some data points on this entire subject so that we can understand the nuances of the subject better.
Right.
Point number one, out of the $88 billion US export dependency, the impact could be about $63 to $64 billion. On the numeric game, it might look that, okay, it's 9%, 10%, but that's not the point. To substitute this, you're going to have a headway time, number one. You're also going to have some structural issues because we don't have the FTAs with, like UK, we don't have it with every country. So we need to explore, point number one. When you come to the other side of it, which is the Swadeshi part, let me tell you that yes, we've gone a long way from a license rush to wherever we are now. But between where we are now and where China is, let's be very clear, we are 30, 40 years away. So as much as the population has got a demographic dividend for us for consumption, the population is a hindrance because democracy in itself is a system which is flawed with many challenges. Because let's say you want to build a metro, you have to acquire land, and to acquire land, the problem is that anybody can file a case and Supreme Court is already clogged, or the Indian courts are clogged with three and a quarter cases. So to get this resolved is not going to be overnight. So these challenges are practical in nature, but yes, we can solve it. Today I was reading a tweet by Sanjeev Sanyal, who is a part of the Economic Advisory Council for the Prime Minister, that declogging of the EPFO is happening now. When is it happening? After 60, 70 years. So we have a lot of challenges to address. But having said that, do we succumb to the bullying of America? No. Number two, America wants India to dance to its tune. Let your viewers not forget that in 1998, when we did the Pokhran, we had $5 billion reserve. Today, India is with $700 billion reserve, the fourth largest in GDP, the fastest growing GDP, the lowest inflation. Our IAP is fairly good. We are at a 6% north in terms of growth. We may not hit that 8% consistently. We have not hit it because we've had 2 bad years in terms of COVID and a lot of data discrepancies also there. But having said all that, in PPP, EY's report today says that by 2038, we will be 4x of where we are, and we will be the second largest economy in the world by 2047. 25 years from 23, where we had put this target. I strongly believe anywhere between $35 trillion to $50 trillion, if we consistently grow at about 7.5% is possible. Having said that, we need this government or any government who has the spine to stand up and clear up the ease of doing business. I'm an entrepreneur, and on live national television, I'll tell you, to get regulatory approvals is a damn headache. It's not at all easy. and to just get any regulator. I don't want to name people, but
Yeah.
it is a damn headache.
No, I totally understand because the country has been talking about ease of doing business, but the compliances, the bureaucratic red tape, it's painful. It's really painful, and it discourages investment. There is a huge amount of FDI inflow, but is it to tap into the markets and into the stock exchanges, or is it actually happening on ground, and is it fructifying on ground? There are states that are creating windows, single windows and specific investments, but overall, how much of an atmosphere is it? Saket Mishra ji, it's important, somebody sets up a factory.
One point I would like to
yes.
add, sorry to interrupt, but one point.
Yeah.
I fully believe India moved and progressed when we moved from UPA to UPI, but more than the ease of doing business, the ease of being corrupt is very high in this country, and that's one of the biggest draggers. Until that is solved, nothing is. Sorry for the interest. I just want
No, I totally understand. But there has to be a way to crack this. It's not that corruption doesn't exist elsewhere in the world. Corruption exists everywhere. That's a human nature. But how easily and how smartly can we tap and reduce the avenues for corruption to happen? It should not be that somebody spends 3-4 crores of setting up a manufacturing plant and spends 6-8 months to a year, Saketji, to try and build it up from ground up. And just as they are heading towards inauguration and starting production, the fire department comes and says 2 steps less. You said 22 steps and it has only 20 and it's a fire hazard, and that's why I will not give you clearance. We know what that indication is, right? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I'm quoting a real life scenario. Many viewers would identify with such kind of hurdles. Now, we can't afford that. That is not going to discourage one person. That's going to discourage even the person who's going to was ready to invest 300 crore after this 3 crore plant. You get the point. Now, we can't be Swadeshi if we have this attitude.
Anand, is that for me?
Yes. General Pandey is also with us. Namaste, General Pandey. After Saket Mishra, I'll come to you.
Anand.
I think, Anand, the first thing is that as far as this Trump tariffs are concerned, we should perhaps ignore some of these so-called experts who keep coming in with zero stake. I'm sorry, I'm going to be a bit blunt, who only come to India for their press conferences and then go back to join their sinecure somewhere in the West, and who come and tell us about wake-up calls and all that after having been in positions of responsibility. The fact is that India and the US have a multi-dimensional relationship. There is a certain degree of, to use a kind word, unpredictability about Donald Trump. We need to manage that. But I have no doubt in my mind that the US and India will come together in terms of a reasonable solution eventually. Second, India today is not the India of 1947, it's not the India of 1971, it's not the India when we did our second Pokhran blast. India today can survive and thrive on its own. As we saw in COVID, and I think there were 2 things. One, as we saw in COVID, we learned how to produce for the world. And I think that's the real economic model that we need to look at. We don't want to be a second China or a second best China. We want to be the first best India. If you could produce vaccines for the world, we can tomorrow start producing computing for the world and let the world compute with us. We can start producing healthcare for the world. We can start producing diagnostics for the world. So there's this, unlike the US, which wants to actually hegemonize and control eventually, whether it is brands, as you very correctly pointed out earlier, or it's technology, we can actually gain ground by our basic philosophy of looking after the world, which the PM has pointed out. So Swadeshi is not just producing for ourselves, but it's about making a new India that produces for the world. Third, we have a domestic economy that is strong enough, and I do not think there is any need to panic. I'm also not one of those who keep saying that there's an opportunity behind every danger. The fact is, it gives us a chance to act faster and more decisively on some of the things, reforms that we need to do. Primary being what you said, human nature is corrupt. There is a very simple solution. We have some of the best brains in technology, and what we need to do is exactly in that fire station kind of thing. The steps and the fire hazard kind of story. We need to bring in technology to allow deemed approvals as many times as possible, remove that human bureaucrat or rather the chain of bureaucrats who need to sign off on every page and give people a chance to just fly by themselves. I have immense faith in India. And I think COVID was almost like a test case. This is going to make us come out even stronger.
Well, as a nation, we can if we have the attitude and the mindset. But somewhere policy is also perhaps myopic. It has to have far more far-sightedness than it does currently. Nikhil Jain is also with us. General Pandey, let's take the issue of national security. How many of our Jawans, how many of our personnel at the borders are actually using Bharatiya-made, Bharatiya encrypted phones? Frankly, majority of these phones are either coming in from China, from Korea, or have tech with America in it. Our platforms, we ban Chinese apps, but we are all dependent on apps which are manufactured, controlled, owned by American entities. Whereas nations like Korea, South Korea, nations like China, nations like Russia, nations like Turkey, so many others have built their own platforms. They have built their own conversation platforms, engagement platforms, visual platforms. They have mirrors of the American tech. But that's what provides them. Said, tomorrow if America decides to weaponize its tech companies, what do we do? Where do we go? And we are vulnerable at multiple points. Have we not thought of this as a nation, as policy? Where do you stand? Or perhaps this is the opportunity to develop all of it and quickly get onto the right side of things. General Pandey.
Yeah, so Anand, look, firstly, you've already highlighted the important issue of foreign elements in our systems across the defense, national security structures. Everywhere you got an embed, either the Chinese, which we may claim there's nothing, but frankly, there is an element of Chinese product in all communication or command control systems which are there. And similarly, if it is not the Chinese, some other country has given it us, and therefore it holds us hostage to this thing. But let's be practical also. Firstly, our systems have started getting improved only now. Now suddenly to just say that we are going to jump ahead and we are going to get ahead within a decade and a half ahead of the curve is something very impossible. It'll take us some time, right? So while we are on course, but I'll go with the first speaker who said he was quite emotional, and I'll really go about it. That one question I am asked, that what is stopping India from progressing? It is our processes, right? Somewhere our processes need to be streamlined. But what is stopping the second part to change those processes is corruption, right? And while democracies are very corrupt, I can assure you, even the communist system in the sense of Chinese is also immensely corrupt. But then when you have an autocratic system which is looking ahead, it can ensure that corruption goes to one way, but yet a policy decision is implemented and progress takes place. And there's a mass scale overlooking of human rights issues and all, and thereafter you can generate the income to feed for your national security stuff. But then coming on to what is India? India is about innovation, imagination. We go on innovation, imagination only when we are pushed to corner, right? It is in our DNA to be lulled into complacency where everything is going out very, very easy for us. Imagine in just about last 2 decades and all, very conveniently we started swinging towards the American side. And again, I go with the second speaker, that our relationship to America is based on number of principles which will continue to remain. But the fact of the matter is, as you grow, you're the every sixth guy in the world, you got a domestic consumption here going for you, right? So if you just harness your domestic consumptions, you harness certain degree of policy decision, we are going to take a setback with 50 this thing. But is the setback going to such big that we are going to be stalled? I don't think so. We will fly slightly more, slightly slower. But if this opportunity is taken to shift our gears, to innovate our domestic production capacities, we are going to go into the niche technology, because other technologies we are fine, but we have to look at the niche technology part which is missing for our country. I think we need to look at that. And if we start looking at these smaller, and by the way, we are already on that route. I just want to, I'm just coming from Ran Samvad, which was a very major 2 days intellectual effort towards technology in national security. We had entire media industry and a very, very senior people of our armed forces retired and serving. One thing came out resounding very clear, that we need to reform our processes, and somewhere this government is struggling with our bureaucracy to change. It is not only at the central government level, but also at the state government level. And therein lies the politics. So essentially, somewhere we need to turn this around, and I surely go with this logic of COVID and all, that how we change ourselves. So I look at a very positive way, that firstly, this whole thing has exposed American interests are going to be first rather than India or a parallel this thing. And therefore, we need to continue to get ahead, that we should not rely on the Russians or Americans or somebody else or Israelis, because their domestic compulsion or international compulsions are going to keep us high and dry. But today we are the economy. We have the powerhouse,
Right.
we got education system, we got skill sets to actually change it to an opportunity, and I'm quite sure we will do it.
Yeah, it's just that we got to do it faster. When it comes to processes and bureaucracy, it exists in the civilian side, but also in the defense sector. So the defense bureaucracy is also another case study which also needs to become leaner and meaner. And if it can do in times of Operation Balakot and Operation Sindoor, then it can do it otherwise also. So I think it applies across the board in terms of an attitude. Nikhil Jain is also with us. Quickly, viewers, just taking you from some other data points as we take this conversation forward. The idea is to put forth the pros and the cons, but net, I think all of us here together believe that we need to take the country forward, less dependent on external forces, more dependent on our own resilience and our own strength. Here's a look at where Swadeshi model is perhaps possible. Electronics. Flagship success story under production linked incentive strategy. There's a surge of 146% from 2.13 lakh crore in 2020-2021 to 5.25 lakh crore 2024-2025. The PLI scheme has encouraged smartphone firms to shift production into Bharat, and they continue to push on despite whatever Trump is telling him. Especially Apple is a case in point. Samsung is the other one who's really upping its production in Bharat. July 2025, Next Quantum introduced the first fully India-made device too. Automobile and auto components. Now, Bharat has attracted committed investments worth 67,690 crore rupees. Since March 2024, 14,043 crore have been invested, generating over 28,884 jobs. Food processing. Investments of over 8,910 crore rupees, with over 1,084 crore dispersed as incentives. And government schemes aims to modernize product processing units, enhance branding and exports. And of course, pharmaceutical drugs, where Bharat has transitioned from a net importer to a net exporter, 2,280 crore surplus. There are more data points too, which we will cover. But Nikhil Jain, problem, opportunity, challenges, or perhaps strengths, what would you like to focus on?
Anand, what I would like to focus on is the core objective. I think every panelist, you and me, everybody would want to see a more self-reliant India, an India that grows, an India that does not have to depend on an America telling us where to buy our oil from or where not to buy our oil from. But the problem is that all of that can happen only when the political establishment in the country, when the government in the country, instead of coming out with lofty political ideas, comes with a clear-cut strategy. Like, for instance, the government is now talking about how we are going to make ourselves more self-reliant in terms of defense technology in the wake of Donald Trump imposing 50% tariffs on us, tariffs that are going to hurt our exporters that are primarily working in industries that are labor-intensive industries like textiles and gems polishing and so on and so forth. These tariffs have nothing to do with defense technology. Defense technology is a completely separate space. And let's be real and practical, like General Pandey also said earlier, that if anybody is expecting that we are going to make the avant-garde fighter jets, missiles, and all part of our defense equipment is going to be completely Indian-made, that's not possible in the next few years, probably not in the next few decades. And let's understand that Russia, China, US, all these countries that do have these native-made defense technology. They've invested hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars into the research of this. So single programs run into tens of and hundreds of billions of dollars when you talk about the US and the Lockheed Martin development that they do. We don't have that kind of money. We need to first put in place the base infrastructure. And I'm sure you would have seen it as well. I've seen it in my personal friend circle that pretty much all of my friends who did a good engineering degree are now abroad. Somebody's in Canada, somebody's in US, somebody's in Europe. The government needs to come out with a strategy that needs to make sure that we are not draining our brain to these foreign countries, that these people are employed in India. And what's the travesty? That of those who do stay back in India, they're not choosing to go into DRDO, ISRO, HAL. They are choosing to go into these startups that are again funded by VC money, either coming from China or from the US. Also, you have such brilliant minds in India, but where is our research infrastructure? Do we have sufficient research budgets in our IITs, in our ISC, in our TIS, in institutes that matter? We don't. Instead of talking about these things, we are talking about how this is an opportunity. This is a tragedy. What has happened with the Trump's tariffs? It's a challenge. We need to come out of it, but to see it only as an opportunity, I think that's being very dishonest to ourselves. And lastly, I think what the government also needs to realize, which every economist around the world has been saying for many, many years, that India has a consumption problem. Right now, America accounts for 19%, about a fifth of our merchandise exports or your manufacturing-based exports, right? An Indian Express report recently pointed out that how our exports to the United States in the wake of these tariffs might drop down by 50%. So what we're talking about is that 10% of our total merchandise exports might drop down. What are those exporters going to do? In fact, just today, I was talking to a friend of mine who has a textile factory, and he was like, the entire market is down. We don't know what to do. I have to lay off so many people, right? What we need to do? We need to increase our consumption. We need to make sure that you and I stop buying things that are made in Vietnam or China or elsewhere, but we buy stuff from our Indian manufacturers. What is the strategy of the government there? Because consumption side problem has been sustaining in the Indian economy for the past many years. The government has taken a lot of initiatives, but the problem is the government has been taking initiatives on the supply side, and those are not yielding results.
It's not on the
famously reduced the corporate tax,
right,
and it was hailed as a big move by the government. Some people thought that it would be good that when corporations are going to make more profit, they're going to invest more. But they would only invest more when there is demand. If my current capacity is lying idle, why would I set up new manufacturing capacity?
Okay,
I need to increase my consumption.
I totally agree with you, and I think that needs to be addressed. Saket Mishra, Kishore Subramaniam, circling back to you, but just some numbers, viewers, okay? As a defense manufacturer, where are we today? Can we do better? Of course. Is there a greater possibility? Of course. Indigenous defense production at a record 1.27 lakh crore rupees. So that's a big jump from where we were in the past. We were not making anything at all. 2024-2025, the exports soared to 23,622 crore. Can this go up to a 1 lakh crore or 2 lakh crore? Of course it can. But 2024-25 saw a 34-fold increase in defense exports compared to just 10 years ago in 2013-2014. So things have improved, but are we moving at a pace that we should, or can we move faster? Saket Mishra, how would you want to respond? One of the first things, in April or May, the government should have seen that come September, August, September, there is going to be a bottleneck. There is going to be a lot of product which will not be pulled. There will be a pause on orders that will come from the US. So should the domestic market have been opened up for all these quote-unquote export surpluses? Could other markets have been given to these exporters? The FIEO has also raised these concerns. There is a 6-month SOP that's being extended on cotton imports and other leeway that will be given to the exporters, especially in textile. But could this have been done before? Why did we have to wait one full quarter to react? That's a fair question to ask. Sakit.
Anand, I guess I'm slightly more positive. I do not think it's a tragedy. It's a challenge for sure, but I think beating our breast is not going to get us there. Second, it isn't just about, asking people to buy Swadeshi. Can you imagine anybody in the government asking people to only buy Indian goods, and we'll have 200 guys saying, you're intruding on our freedom and personal life and everything else. The answer is, are we moving in the right direction in terms of creating the capacity where people want, which is, I think, what you started with.
Yes.
Where people want to buy Indian goods. PLI was not started because Trump imposed a tariff on us. I personally work with, a couple of SMEs which have come out of the IDEX program in defense. These are kids who have come back from the US and who are setting up stuff. It cannot happen in a day because we cannot, I think as Nikhil said, we cannot put in hundreds of billions of dollars. We do not need to make the next F-16. But if we can make some of the most important parts of that F-16 and start selling it to Saab or start selling it to the Rafale program and leveraging ourselves there, guess what? We're going to make a whole lot of money. And we have the talent to do that. So I think the answer lies not just in, we purely giving money to the next textile exporter is not going to be the answer.
Correct.
The answer is going to be, how do we tell the textile manufacturer to produce things that are, for instance, required and do designing that is required in sub-Saharan Africa? We cannot give people money to keep idle. We need them to give money, and when we are reacting to this, I think that's what we need to do. Last point that I need to make, I think, and again, I think is that we have, over-focused on this brain drain issue. India is not just about the IITs. As some of the leaders in Microsoft and other companies have proven, guys coming out of Manipal, guys coming out of our RECs are all really, really good. India does not have a human capital problem. We have enough people who can do things. Where we do need to change, and I think rather than talking about general ease of business, we need to talk about how do we scale our businesses. Because today's date, establishing that first factory is somewhat easier. But taking it from 50 crores to 500 crores is what becomes impossible, because we'll have the next big guy in the industry coming in trying to buy us out or trying to stop us or whatever else. We need to impose that kind of ecosystem where we create people with 50 who can go from 50 to 500 and tell them how to do it, whether it's through R&D, whether it's through helping them in our export markets, whether it's tying it in with our defense imports from Europe or wherever else. Those are the things we really need to do. And I genuinely think that it is going to be immensely hard if we don't get a deal with the US in the next 3 months. But having said that, I think we are reasonably well placed as a country to be able to come out of this even stronger.
No, I'm not saying that we are not reasonably well placed, but are we aware? Are we?
Of course we are.
Could we move faster? Viewers, see, never before. Frankly, I just want to say, when it comes to, nobody is saying things are not happening. I'm just saying there is a vision of setting aside 1 lakh crore for research and development in the country.
But why does TCS not do that?
Especially defense and in other sectors for core research. There has been money that's been set aside. When is it in our own consciousness that we say that we saw that such huge amounts of money were actually being set aside and budgeted for research and development in our country? It's only now that the consciousness is coming through. So it wasn't there in the past, it's coming now. So jab jago tab savera is another attitude, or the other way to look at it ki ab pachta hai kya ho jab chadiya chug gayi khet. So yeah, it's about how you see it.
The only point I'd make is TCS, etc. I think had 40 very good years of having enough money to be. Why should we be looking at government? Of course, I think the government should be helping out, and we should be disaggregating our R&D. For instance, whether it's space technology or defense or IT, or for instance, as we are trying to do with our LLM platform, national LLM platform, we should actually disaggregate that activity and subsidize it to encourage companies. But the fact is, it cannot. If we rely on just the government, we are not going to go very far.
No, it's not about relying on the government. Private investment is not coming because there are hurdles to manufacturing and barriers. There are hurdles to people getting in. The labor reforms. Bill has been passed, it's not been notified. It's another matter that a lot of the state governments are quietly, out of the 12 clauses, 8 or 9 clauses, they've already done it, and then they're doing their own thing to bring in investment in their state. That's okay. But the central notification of labor reform should happen, sir. It's not happened. Just quickly, some more points I just want to highlight for our viewers. It's not all doom and gloom. So we must be cognizant of that. Coming to you, Kishore and General Pandey. Sales under PLI have crossed 2.66 lakh crore. Exports worth 1.70 lakh crore. That's one part. Solar PV modules, investment worth 48,120 crore have been committed. Investments have generated 38,500 direct jobs as of June 30th, 2025. Semiconductors, 6 approved semiconductor projects are in the pipeline. but they will take time to build because it's highly capital intensive. But 6 semiconductor projects means nearly $10 billion worth of investment. So that's also coming in. We are focusing on chip design. Ye sab pehle nahi, we couldn't even think about all this. It's happening. So will it take time? Will it test our patience? Yes. What can we do in the interim? Let's understand that. Plans for 4 additional units in Odisha, Punjab and Andhra when it comes to semiconductor projects. 4,600 crore outlay and direct employment for 2,034 professionals in semiconductors. Textiles, PLI scheme approved with an outlay of 10,683 crore in September 2021. How much is that generating and translating into business? We have to wait and watch. Man-made fiber exports rose to 525 crore in 2025. It was 499 crore in 23-24. Can this be much more? Of course it can. Can it touch 5,000 crores? It can. What needs to be done for that is important. Technical textile exports climbed to 294 crore in 24-25, up about 994 crore from 23-24 when it was about 200 crore. There is so much more that can be done. There are manufacturing bottlenecks. We'll put that out also. As Kishore, come weigh in please. And then General Pandey. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I will not take more than 2 minutes, but I'll tell you a very small story, but an interesting story. Okay. So I hail from Tamil Nadu. There was an erstwhile actor called M.R. Radha, whom you know famously tried to shoot the erstwhile Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu called MGR. When he was about to be arrested, actually M.R. Radha said a very interesting point to the police wala. He said, I tried to kill, this was in Tamil, but I'm just translating. He said, I tried to kill Ramachandran, he didn't die. I tried to commit suicide, I also didn't die. What the heck of a gun are you manufacturing? Now this was said in late 70s, 80s. So he said that, kya gun manufacture? Agar gun se manufacture, dono mar jate, koi case hi nahi hota. No, this is a very important point, not just in an anecdotal basis. You should remember that the average honesty of the average Indian is much below average. And let's not shy away from this. I am not a cynical person. I am not a pessimistic person. I am not saying there is gloom and doom. But let's be realistic. I am working with a co-founder of my organization who has built a 3,000 crore company. And he's one among the 15 members in the whole country who's less than 33 built a 3,000 crore company. But do you know how much of difficulty is there to get capital from a bank for a company which has 1,500 crore turnover? Your head will shake off if I start rattling those numbers. Leave that apart. But what is important are we in the positive right direction? Yes, we are in the right direction. But what is more important to remember is that our fundamentals are not in place. No government school functions properly in this country after 75 years. Is this a joke? Every single sub-registrar office in Tamil Nadu takes bribe of 1 crore per day. Is this a joke? And this is where you are living in a country and saying, oh no, we are actually improving. We are. I don't deny that. But the fact of the matter is that to even do your basics, Aadhaar card photo लेने के लिए आपको मतलब ज़माना लग जाता था. That's come to situation a proper thing. Passport has come online properly. So there are a lot of good things happening. But having said that, if your education and your corruption is not removed at a pace which is not democratically infringing on our personal rights, ये सब झमेला बंद करके you should get these things basics right. There is corruption everywhere in the world, but not to have your day-to-day life. To get a driving license, to get an Aadhaar card, to get your EPO for sorted. There is a customer of mine who is trying to get his PF for 13 years. Can you beat this? A cognizant employee, 13 years it takes to get his own employee provident fund. It is impossible. So courts are clogged, things don't work. Even if the central government wants it, the state government doesn't allow it. And reservation to puchiye mat. Let me not get started. Don't get me started.
Okay. I'm just saying that despite all of this, if we are still the third largest GDP economy in the world and we are growing at 7.5%, that means, imagine if we got all of this right, what is the pace at which we will grow?
Absolutely. India has always grown despite.
Correct.
We have always grown despite.
So if we were to remove this despite, and then what is the level to which we can grow, viewers? That's a phenomenal possibility, isn't it? But the other thing is, I think processes. Let's circle back to that. Is that perhaps the single biggest aspect which the government currently needs to focus on? Are the GST reforms one of the first step towards perhaps easing processes? More importantly, compliance issues, single window clearances, deemed clearances via online. These aspects, how long before they actually fructify or they manifest? General Pandey, your thoughts? Especially when it comes to the defense sector, the potential is so huge. Now that we have shown how good we are via Operation Sindoor, we should be amping it up rapidly.
Yeah. So, Anand, look, firstly, the bottom line is that on an average, what our previous speaker said, almost everybody is corrupt here. That is a very unfortunate. But the good part on the defense side is the guns which you are manufacturing actually kills. So possibly a couple of decades back, the same guns which are manufactured in India were used. So that case would not happen. But that is on the lighter side. Let's come to the serious business.
Right.
When you want to transform industry within a decade's time, it will burn out, right? What Anand you're trying to push and says, can we do more? Yes, we can do much more. But do we have the capacities to absorb to make it more? Are the systems in place to do it more? They will only transition and change slowly. The moment you try and do something very fast, you will find it will balloon, and thereafter this balloon will burst. Right? This whole shifting of focus on the defense sector, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India. In fact, what Trump is trying to do today to take jobs back home, everybody, the other countries are taking a leaf out of our country. That if you want to make, kindly come here and make it for us. And then if possible, make it for the rest of the world. So this is a fight which is going on. And I think right now, trying to push our government to do far, far more better will result into a problem that we will start manufacturing which we not be able to consume. Right? So this slight, slow shift, steady shift is taking place to make in India and now make it for the world is a better way to go rather than starting to buy. That balance is required, that we need to continue to import certain niche technologies till the time we are capable to handle and make it ourselves. Right. Because is there an ecosystem? While we may have brilliant students from our IITs and other places, is the system in place? Yes, I must tell you, like I've been going and meeting, talking to these guys in IIT and all. Often that same refrain comes out that we are all looking abroad because these opportunities are abroad. But then I'm also meeting a segment which is now going abroad, and what Trump is doing through H-1B visas and all. Right. The same people who are going abroad are now finding jobs difficult to be there. And therefore, they are returning back to these opportunities back home. So I guess this will happen back and forth. It should not happen that within a year's time, all these tariff things get eased out, and thereafter we again are lulled into complacency and start not looking at our defense industry. The second question which you asked, which you mentioned, I think I'll just take a minute to... Were we doing anything about in last 3 months? I think when you observe what the government of India has done by looking at Global South, by looking at other markets, by engaging and interacting with others to start getting out from that hostage situation which the Americans were likely to put us. Right? So yes, not to say that whatever was produced and manufactured for the Americans will go straight away out to some other outlets. May not happen. Right. But yes, I am very sure that within a month or 2 months' time, this diversion of the manufactured goods will happen. I think the Prime Minister has already announced the relief on the GST coming down, which will allow our own people to buy stuff at the consumption will start increasing within the country itself. And the last point, I think, where a lot of people are saying that don't go to Starbucks, don't go to this thing because that money goes back to America. I think, please understand, these are franchisees which are being run by our own people. Right. You say you shut down 1,000, it may be symbolic, but the fact of the matter is that many chain employment of our own people goes out. What do you do about them? Correct. So either you open up similar great restaurants and systems where you can eat and absorb those employees, and if you can't, then let's not start getting to
I think that was not where we should have ideally been hurting them. Had we had our own platforms for engagement and data and platforms for pushing out our own content, etc., which are not American, that's where the revenues would have hit them, because these platforms are making at least 40 to 50,000 crores annually in terms of revenue each from Bharat. That's the amount of revenue. Now, we can't tap that because we can't leverage that, and we can't hurt them because they would have gone running back and they would have said, stop this panga with Bharat. Immediately it would have happened. We don't have that leverage. China has that leverage with rare earth minerals, and that's why Trump has gone silent on China. and he's not saying much there, even though they buy much more oil from the Russians than we do. Nikhil, I'm sorry I will not be able to get you one more comment because we got a special guest joining us. Thank you very much to all our guests. Thank you. Shifting focus to the Trump administration that has only escalated the language against the Modi government as Bharat flexes muscles on economic, diplomatic and geopolitical platforms. From Trump himself, who called Bharati economy dead, to his key trade advisor calling the Russia-Ukraine war Modi's war. The H-1B program is also now under the lens. Listen in.
Look, it's real easy. India can get 25% off tomorrow if it stops buying Russian oil and helping to feed the war machine.
Not sending that signal.
They're not. And look, here's the thing. I'm puzzled, okay? Because Modi's a great leader. These people this is a mature democracy with intelligent people running it. And they look us bald-faced in the eye on the tariff part and say, we don't have the highest tariffs in the world, when in fact they do. There's no dispute about that if you look at the numbers. And then they say, oh, we're not going to stop buying Russian oil. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we've talked about this, but it's worth talking to your viewers again. When India buys Russian oil at a discount, and then Indian refiners in partnership in India with Russian refiners make that and sell it at a premium to the rest of the world, right? Russia uses the money it gets to fund its war machine, kill more Ukrainians, and then the next thing that happens, of course, is Ukraine comes to us and Europe and says, give us some more money. So everybody in America loses because of what India is doing. The consumers and businesses and everything lose, and workers lose because India's high tariffs cost us jobs and factories and income and higher wages. And then the taxpayers lose because we got to fund Modi's war, okay? The road to peace runs at least partly right through New Delhi.
Putin's war?
I mean Modi's war.
Let me ask you
because
this.
the road to peace runs in part through New Delhi. The authoritarians, China, you've been at quiet war with them for decades. They invaded Aksai Chin and all your territory. These are not your friends, folks, okay? And the Russians, I mean, come on.
The H-1B, it's become a total scam. These companies game the system. You have some of these companies that are laying off large numbers of Americans while they're also getting new H-1Bs and renewing H-1Bs. And a lot of
Let's go straight across to Crystal Call, NATO advisor and Democratic congressional candidate, on how Bharat and the Democrats can actually navigate the Trump tariff storm. Crystal, you've got Bharatiya moorings. You're a Sikhni whose roots with Kashmir, Kashmiri Pandit roots too. So it's nice to speak with you, and all the best to you in your attempt to become the representative of Virginia's 10th congressional district. But how do you see what's going on with Donald Trump and this entire tariff bogey?
Thank you so much, first off, for having me on. I really appreciate it. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that this is just a power play by President Trump. I think that it's very clear that President Trump does not want to understand geopolitics. He's, in my opinion, not really fit to be president of the United States. And this is a strategic move just to say that, we're the United States and we can impose this on you. And this is coming at a time, honestly, where we've made such strides in improving U.S.-India relations, right? I mean, if you look at just the history since the Cold War and the Pokhran explosion, President Obama and President Biden have really improved the relations between the countries. We've seen that in the G20 summit. And now with this imposition, it's not just trade that's going to be affected, but it's going to be the strategic military relations, right? It's it's going to be trust and confidence building measures between the two countries. So I think that what Trump is doing is really just setting back U.S.-India, their strategic relations, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild it. I also don't think it will hold that long.
Is his MAGA base aware that China is buying more oil from Russia than India is, and Trump is not saying anything against the Chinese? Is inflation reflecting on ground? Because these tariffs are only going to be passed on to American consumers eventually.
100% agree, and this is a case where we're not really talking logic. We're talking more about power. I don't think that Trump wants to poke that bear with China. So yeah, you're 100% right. But in the case of India, again, this is the same kind of thing that happened in the Cold War, right? You're with us or you're against us. And so now, I mean, it's not just India, it's Japan, it's EU. This move of tariff is one that's really just saying, hey, we're pulling a power move over you. So, and in the case of China, obviously, one, there's so much trade that's being done, it would be detrimental for the U.S. economy if he were to impose it. And two, it would, really catalyze the Chinese military. And I just don't think that would be wise for Trump to poke that bear.
How do you see your chances? Let's talk a little bit about you. I know your moorings, you've worked very hard, and we're given to understand you've saved up a certain amount of cash to be able to prove your worthiness, etc. So how is it for you? And how is the political landscape, especially Virginia, in the district that you're trying to throw your hat in the ring?
So my election happened. I did run for VA 10, Virginia District 10 last year. And you're right, I did invest money I made in my small business. And I also was able to raise quite a lot of funds. So I was able to, altogether able to raise about a little over $1 million. And I believe strongly in the Democratic Party. I believe strongly in future U.S.-India relations and so I think, from my standpoint, I would like to run again. And that was just the beginning. So we have, obviously, Indian Americans are thriving in the United States, and I think that India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So it only makes sense to bring the oldest and the largest democracies together.
This entire H-1B visa that's being raised, is that going to create ruffles among the Indian American diaspora, the Indians who are studying there, working there? Final question.
Absolutely, it will. Yeah, I think we've seen it in the past, right? I mean, India is a country where there's one of the longest wait times for an H-1B, and now just with everything that's being imposed, I mean, from student visas to H-1Bs, we get a lot of most of our IT skill sets is coming from from India. This is going to impact a lot of technology companies in the United States that really rely on this skill pool of talent. So again, I think that there's nobody above the seat. President Trump will be in for a term, but I don't think that we're going to see this as lasting beyond his tenure. And so I'm hopeful that a lot of this can be reversed.
Well, we're
hopefully before he leaves office.
Yeah. Before sooner than later, that's what we can say. Crystal, thank you so much for your time. All the very best to you. Lovely speaking with you, and look forward to a longer interaction very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Namaste. On that note, we're going to call it a wrap on this edition of The Right Stand, and we're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studios, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Namaste.
Co-presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Right now, is there a potential for a deal to change that number?
Look, it's real easy. India can get 25% off tomorrow if it stops buying Russian oil and helping to feed the war machine.
Not sending that signal.
They're not. And look, here's the thing. I'm puzzled, okay? Because Modi's a great leader. These people this is a mature democracy with intelligent people running it. And they look us bald-faced in the eye on the tariff part and say, we don't have the highest tariffs in the world, when in fact they do. There's no dispute about that if you look at the numbers. And then they say, oh, we're not going to stop buying Russian oil. Now, what does that mean? I mean, we've talked about this, but it's worth talking to your viewers again. When India buys Russian oil at a discount, and then Indian refiners in partnership in India with Russian refiners make that and sell it at a premium to the rest of the world, right? Russia uses the money it gets to fund its war machine, kill more Ukrainians, and then the next thing that happens, of course, is Ukraine comes to us and Europe and says, give us some more money. So everybody in America loses because of what India is doing. The consumers and businesses and everything lose, and workers lose because India's high tariffs cost us jobs and factories and income and higher wages. And then the taxpayers lose because we got to fund Modi's war, okay? The road to peace runs at least partly right through New Delhi.
Putin's war?
I mean
war.
Modi's
Okay.
war.
Let me ask you
because
this.
the road to peace runs in part through New Delhi.
Now, going back to my colleague Siddhant, Siddhant, it seems to be confusion there. You know, we just heard Peter Navarro's statement there. Earlier, of course, we were listening to the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying something else. He was saying that, India and US will come together eventually. He was showing that optimism in that. And now you have Peter Navarro going completely opposite to it, calling it Modi's war.
Well, that's right. So as we were discussing before, Arun, that they are frustrated because they couldn't stop the war. There have been a lot of efforts given by President Trump to bring President Putin to the table and, to get a ceasefire or to get the war stopped, but he couldn't. So now what they're doing is, and also they're not liking the fact that India is withstanding its ground. India is not stuck up to the demands of the administration by opening the markets for the agri and dairy products. Perhaps that's what they have been asking for. So, it's kind of a double frustration. One, they couldn't stop the war in Ukraine, and the second, they couldn't get from India what they were expecting. And in fact, as you rightly said, yesterday Scott Bessent also said that India came early. We were expecting deal with India by May or June, but it couldn't happen. But Scott Bessent was measured what he said yesterday, and in fact, he said that India is largest democracy. We are the largest economy. Perhaps one day we will come together. So but what Peter Navarro has said, perhaps calling it a Modi war, I expect that there's going to be a very sharp reaction coming from New Delhi on this statement of Peter Navarro calling Ukraine conflict and Modi's war, because the fact is that China is still buying Russian crude. Europe has been buying Russian crude and energy from last 3 years. Since last December, there was an agreement, and the gas was being supplied, and it was Russia that was paying Ukraine to use the gas pipeline. The United States itself has been importing a lot of things from Russia. Then why only targeting India being targeted? Why only going after India? Perhaps this is something which, in fact, everybody is asking, Arun, at this point in time. In fact, the House Foreign Affairs Committee also came up with a statement, and it says that instead of imposing sanctions on China or others purchasing large amount of Russian oil, Trump's singling out India with tariffs, hurting Americans and sabotaging the U.S.-India relationship in the process. So as I said, there's double frustration. One, they couldn't get a deal with India.